Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program from our studios in Jerusalem. Today we have a very special guest in the studio, Amanda Weiss, who's the director of the Bible Lands Museum. Thank you so much, Amanda, for coming across today. We're very, very excited to have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Amanda Weiss is originally from New York and worked for non-profit and educational organizations in the United States before moving to Israel in 1991. Through Amanda's leadership as director of the Bible Lands Museum, the museum has become a vibrant cultural centre for innovative exhibitions and educational programs that serves the diverse populations of Israel as well as visitors from around the world. And we're going to tell you all about how you can visit the museum when you come to Israel, or even how you can go online and see different things. Amanda has led all sorts of people around the museum, including US President Bush and his wife Laura, also government ministers. Naftali Bennett has been shown around the museum. And the museum, I understand, has shown, Amanda, the oldest prayer book in the world, the oldest in the Jewish tradition, the Siddur, the oldest Jewish prayer book. It was 1,200 years old, and that was unveiled for the first time at the Bible Lands Museum, if I'm correct.
Yes, it was. It was unveiled actually with a special exhibition. It was on loan to us from a remarkable collection that was in an exhibition called The Book of Books, which really traced the Bible from earliest known documentation, written text, which is Dead Sea Scrolls and the Septuagint in Greek and early languages, up to today. There was even an original Gutenberg Bible page and some remarkable finds there, all part of the collection actually that will be going into the new Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. that opens next month. But the Bible Lands Museum rarely shows Bibles, which is what's most interesting, because we are not a museum of religion, we're a museum of history that looks at the Bible and the biblical history through the material cultures of the Bible.
Now we'll come back to that in just one second. I just want to tell the people about how you came here, because they always find that our viewers always find it very interesting how people come from the United States. I know a lot of you watching in the United States come from the United States to live in Israel. Not such an easy move. People don't realize that it's not a moving state, but you've got to move long distance and moving all your worldly possessions, mostly in containers and things. So maybe it'd be good, Amanda, to share a little bit about how you moved and why you moved.
Okay, so I moved for the Bible Lands Museum, actually. It's a remarkable museum that was founded by my family, and I helped them in the early stages of development of the museum. And in 1991, we were preparing to open. We opened in 92. The museum is 25 years old this year. And I came for 1 year, but only 1 year, because I didn't believe in working with family. I didn't know that that was such a wise idea. And I was a single mom. I had 2 little boys, and I thought, their father's still in the United States, and we have a very amicable relationship, but nonetheless, it's very hard to move your entire family. As a matter of fact, my little one was only barely 6, and he said, our television has so many channels. Can't we take it with us to Israel? Because in Israel at those days, you're all probably watching on public television or satellite or however you download. In those days, there were only 2 channels here in Israel. That was a long time ago, 26 years ago, in terms of our revolution in technology and what we can do. So I came for 1 year.
You were very brave.
Well, I don't know if I was brave or I was excited. I was excited about the opportunity to be part of an institution that was just getting started. And I can't be called that brave because I didn't make that big a commitment. I paid a commitment for 1 year. But it was after 1 year that I decided that I needed a second year. And then it's basically continued from there. From once I'd been here for 2 years, it was clear that this is where I wanted to live my life.
I've read somewhere, Amanda, that you've got a family involvement with the museum. So maybe you could tell us a bit about how you got involved with the Bible Lands Museum and how you ended up being the director of the Bible Lands Museum.
How many days does this program run for? Well, actually, the short version is that I was visiting Israel in 1981 with my mother. We were on a rare opportunity where we were traveling abroad together. We were a very Zionist family. I grew up in New York City, as you said, and Israel was always a very important part of our lives, and we used to take trips regularly as a family. And she and I were here together for a wedding, good thing to come for, and an exhibition opening. And at that opening was also a very interesting person named Dr. Eli Borofsky. The opening was actually a private collection of dear friends of ours at the Israel Museum. And the late Joseph Turnbach stood there and said that in his wildest imagination, when he was liberated from the camps in Germany, he was a German-born Jew, could he have envisioned the day that he would be standing in the modern state of Israel, in the capital of the state of Israel, in a national museum with a collection with his name on it. And it was that spirit, that aura of the moment that we were about 13 people that were friends of the Turnbachs, and we went back to the King David Hotel, which was great luxury. We didn't normally do things like that. And at the bar there, sitting, we were all having drinks, there was this Dr. Eli Borofsky, a very tall, very dramatic, very powerful individual, and he was carrying a catalog called Ladders to Heaven. And he was talking about it as the most important evidence for the Jewish people and for the Christian world, for our Judeo-Christian heritage that exists today. And my mother, God bless her, may she live to 120, turned to him and said, "Okay, what are you going to do with it?" He said, "What do you mean, what am I going to do with it?" And she said,
So this was artifacts that he collected?
this was his collection. Basically, his collection is the Bible Lands Museum.
Wow.
Not 100%, but well over 90%. And it turned out they started to argue. And she said, if you're going to build it, it belongs in Jerusalem and no place else. And they built it in Jerusalem.
He wasn't going to display it in Jerusalem?
No, he had an idea. You have to understand that he was a man whose years during the Holocaust suffered the greatest losses one can imagine, the unimaginable losses, and rebuilt his life based on his knowledge, on his education, on his wisdom, and his capacity to understand both ancient languages and contemporary languages. He was a brilliant man. He was trained as a rabbi and went on to study at the greatest institutions in Europe, including at the Vatican, at the Pontifical Biblical Institute and the Sorbonne in Paris. So by the time he had established this collection, it was really he would find artifacts, individual pieces that for him were the evidence of the biblical period, particularly if they had ancient inscriptions on them and important names.
Now, people are watching today, you're watching today and you're saying, Amanda, I need to go to this museum when I come to Jerusalem.
Absolutely.
So maybe you can tell us where they can, where it's located and how they can get to it, is it?
Absolutely. The Bible Lands Museum is in the best location in all of Jerusalem. We're right in the heart of the Museum Row near the Parliament building, the Knesset, across from the Shrine of the Book and the Israel Museum. There was a marvelous mayor of Jerusalem named Teddy Kollek, and he insisted that we be located right there in the heart of the museum centers. And as it stands, we are really in the best location in town. Very easy to get to, very easy to find. Just say, I want to go to the museum, and every taxi, bus, and tourist on the street and local will tell you where to go. Bible Lands and Israel Museum are right across from one another, so it's a museum compound. We're an independent, separate museum.
Right, right. And maybe you can tell us a bit about the connection, the connection between the Bible and the artifacts, because I know that that's something that's very precious to you, how when people arrive there, what they're going to see.
Right. So the collection itself is quite remarkable. It's one of the finest collections of ancient Near East archaeology and ancient art that may or may not mean something to you passionately as a believer or as a person coming to visit Jerusalem and Israel as a tourist. But what we do is we put Israel really in its historical perspective and the Bible in context through the material we have on display, which is actually takes you from ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia, right? And if you follow the Bible You're not just reading about the Holy Land. You're not just reading about the Temple Mount here in Jerusalem. You're reading about Abraham's journey from Ur in Mesopotamia. Where is that? That's southern Iraq today. And how did he get here? And how did he get to Egypt? What route did he take? And we'll show you that at the Bible Lands Museum. And we'll show you the material culture, the way people live their lives in those time periods. What languages did they use? Well, we don't really know how they sounded, but we do know how they were written, and we can decipher them. And so we know what was written on them. We have some remarkable material, and we'll take you on a walk through the time of Abraham, up through the Exodus from Egypt, into First Temple Jerusalem, and up into the Second Temple period, which is really the time of Jesus in Jerusalem.
And you can go on the website today, and they can, I think there's even a virtual tour.
Oh, there are a couple of them actually now. We're very excited that we're an ancient art museum, and we have some contemporary technology to work with. We have some fabulous virtual tours of special exhibitions, and we're actually working now on making more of those available to the public all the time. Our website is it's very easy. We're called the Bible Lands Museum Jerusalem, which is BLMJ. So just look up blmj.org and you'll find us, or write Bible Lands and you'll get to us very easily. We have guided tours in all languages, and we even have maps printed in Korean and Chinese and Russian and German. Basically, let us know you're coming, and we'll take you on a fabulous guided tour, and you'll understand Israel and the Bible in a way that you will have never seen it before, because we put it in the geopolitical, historical context. We do not teach religion at the Bible Lands Museum. We're a museum of history. But what is our history book?
But you're connecting it to the Bible.
The history book is the Bible.
Right.
Our history book is the Bible.
And you've done there's all sorts of exhibitions that you do at the Bible Lands Museum. I've seen it myself, and it's a fantastic work you're doing. And it's amazing to see that things in the Bible can be confirmed. You know, there's events that can be confirmed, and all sorts of things are confirmed by the evidence that's being found, and it's very, very, very interesting. Now, when you had President Bush there, how on earth do you show a president when you've got so many things to...
That was such an exciting experience, I must say. I did not know what to expect. First of all, I have to say that President George Bush was at the Bible Lands Museum. It's already almost 10 years ago. It was just as he was finishing his final term in office, and it was Israel's 60th Independence Day. We're about to celebrate this coming year, our 70th, so that tells you when it was. I didn't know. People told me all kinds of things, like I had 17 minutes or 22 minutes, and I'd get 30 minutes, or I'd get 11 minutes. And then finally, the smartest person on his entire team, and there were many, and months of preparation, said to me, he is the leader of the free world, and if he's interested, he will stay. And if he's not, he will be very polite, and he will tell you, thank you very much, I'm moving on now. And we had a group of young people that he was supposed to meet in our garden, and it was all set up, and he wanted to meet Arab and Jewish university students and have like a round table discussion with them we have a beautiful garden at the museum. So I said, okay, I'm prepared for everything. And I took him through the chronology that I just talked about, of really looking at the pre-Abrahamic into Abraham and the Exodus from Egypt and up to the Second Temple period. And after about 45 minutes, I had the Secretary of State and the ambassador and everybody waving their arms at me from the background, because they were not allowed to interrupt the tour, and giving me hand signals, now, cut, you've got, right, because they were all waiting for him, and there was a helicopter waiting for him and an airplane waiting for him, and I was holding up the whole schedule. But
I guess
I could have gone on for hours and hours and hours. It was so exciting.
And what's the oldest? I know that you at home, you'll be fascinated to know what's the oldest item that you have in the museum.
So actually, we take sort of a deep breath, and we go what we consider the biblical period, because we go by scientific dating. So we have material that's 5,500 years before the Common Era.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
6,000, 7,000 years old. That's pretty old. It's the antiquities, the Neolithic and Paleolithic material that we have is quite old. We have a gallery that's just devoted, your communications, right? We have a gallery just about the development of writing. How do we get to the alphabet today? And you know what's really funny if you think about it? We're going backwards now. How do people send messages, text messages? With symbols, with emojis. That's like hieroglyphs from ancient Egypt. They're pictures. It's the same idea. It's the same concept. It's coming back around, which is quite phenomenal. The difference today is that almost everybody is literate today, which is a great thing. In ancient times, only very few people had that privilege. It was really for the privileged peoples of all.
And is it a challenge, the new technology, the way the world is going and changing so fast with
it's a constant
inventions
challenge. It is. It's a very good question because it's an exciting challenge because where you're making material accessible, we have different tools today than we've ever had before. We have an exhibition on right now that have ancient tablets. They're little tiny pieces of clay with writing on them that have been deciphered from the time period of Psalm 137, by the rivers of Babylon. There we sat and wept when we remembered Zion, right? I hope I didn't make a mistake there in quoting because I didn't read it it's from memory. But when you look and you read Psalm 137, it's telling you about the Judeans that were exiled when the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar destroys the temple. These are the physical evidence of those people with their names on them, with
Wow.
Judean names on them. They were the generations that settled there in ancient Babylonia. It's phenomenal. So when you have the Bible as text and you have material culture evidence, especially when it has inscriptions on it, it opens up a world to you that I hope to all the public that will come and see the Bible Lands Museum, that it'll open up a world to them to really understand and read and appreciate our history on a very different level.
And if you've just joined us, we've got Amanda Weiss, the director of the Bible Lands Museum, in the studio today. Very, very exciting. And there's a website they can go to, Amanda.
Yes, blmj.org. Very easy to find. And you can look up our exhibitions that are on, our special exhibitions, and we're most proud of our permanent exhibition because it really is a walk through history from the beginning of civilization to the early Christian era.
And it's very interesting how you've done the museum, that there's this story really of the empires at the time, with Egypt on one side of Israel and Mesopotamia, or I guess it's Iraq, is that
Today
correct?
would be Iraq, absolutely.
Right, on the other side, and the trade routes and how Abraham's journey. You've got that wonderful exhibition of that.
Thank
and you'll want to go and see this when you come to Israel. It's in Jerusalem, not far from the Knesset, and as Amanda was saying earlier in the program, you just ask for the museum and then you'll be straight there.
We're right across from the Shrine of the Book. The Israel Museum, the new National Library will be going in very close to us as well. That whole area of Jerusalem is really getting an incredible boost, and if you're coming right now, you'll have to take a bus or a taxi or walk, but in a few years we've been promised by the mayor that the light rail will come practically to our front door, which is very exciting for everyone coming to visit Jerusalem.
And you've worked there now since 1991, is that right?
Before we open, I've actually been a part of the Bible Lands Museum since its very beginning development. We had our groundbreaking in 1985, and we established an American Friends. We have a nonprofit Friends organization in the United States and one in Great Britain and Canada. Museums have to support themselves, and it gives people an opportunity to be able to contribute and join in the work that we're doing and support our work. And so I started out by running the American Friends in 1985. That was how it all started. And I actually came to Israel in '91 because, as I said earlier, it was an opportunity to come to Israel for a year and spend a year here. But I was inspired to come to Israel. And this is actually a slightly different piece of the story. I hadn't thought of telling you this, but I I've been reading a lot about the rise in anti-Semitism today, and Israel being such a small, tiny little strip of a nation surrounded by enemies, and the world that we live in with ISIS and the Islamic State, and all of the negatives that are such an permeating negative and evil element in our lives today. And what really pushed me to move to Israel were two very powerful anti-Semitic incidents that occurred. I was living in Northern Virginia, in Arlington at the time. One was personal, and the other one was public. The personal one was somebody basically was very surprised how nice I was, and I won't repeat the language that she used, because she did not expect that from a Jew. And I was very taken aback and stunned, and I'd helped her through a very difficult and traumatic part in her life, which is why she felt it was so important to thank me, and she thought she was doing such a great thing by saying how surprising it was because I was Jewish in particular, which I found quite startling. The second was I took my children, who were young, down to the park alongside our house. What I didn't know is that Arlington, Virginia at the time was the center of the American Nazi Party. And somebody had spray painted in an underpass on Route 66, which, if you know the DC area, is an enormous highway going out into Virginia. And there was a big black swastika from the ground up to the highway. And on either side, in big black capital letters, it said, "We watch," the swastika, "We wait." And I had just been arguing with my mother on the telephone, because mothers and daughters, we argue. And she said to me, "We need you in Jerusalem. You must come to Jerusalem." And I said, "Look, I have a perfectly happy relationship. My children live with me, and their father lives a mile away. The dog runs away between our houses, and if the dog catcher doesn't pick her up, and we don't have to pay fines, it's a good thing. And we've got a little unit that's working. I don't want to turn that around. My kids were in good schools. Everybody was happy. I was on the board of the day school. Things were right. And then I saw that. And the night before, this woman had said these things to me on the telephone in the middle of the night. And I said to myself, I'm not in the right place. I need to be in Israel. I need to be in Jerusalem. Even if it's 1 year only, I need to do this. I need to do this for myself. I need to do this for the next generation, for my children. What I didn't know then, and that I do know now, is that the creation of this museum and its potential impact on future generations is a calling, is something very important, and I'm where I need to be, with no regrets, and really the greatest pride in the fact that I have a responsibility to carry a legacy forward, and it's a tremendous legacy. I'm very privileged.
And it's a tremendous work you're doing, because connecting the Bible with the land of Israel, not just the land of Israel, but with the surrounding areas, helping people to understand the reality of not just seeing it written, but the reality of it with history is absolutely amazing, Amanda. I know that many of you're going to want to go and visit the Bible Lands Museum, not far from the Knesset, the Israeli Parliament. It's got fantastic parking, and there's a good bus service. So when you come to Israel, if you can't, I know that for some of you're not able to come. There's the virtual tour. They'll be able
there are
to
virtual tours online on our website. Absolutely.
Go to the website and have a look at that. And if you want to get involved in supporting it, I'm sure you can contact them, and they'll be very happy to hear from you how you can stand with the Bible. Maybe there's people watching today, Amanda, and they say, well, this is something I'd really like to stand with and help financially and support the work of the Bible Lands Museum. There'll be all the information, I guess, on the website. Go to their website and contact them. Well, it's been great to have you with us today with Amanda Weiss, from the director of the Bible Lands Museum in Jerusalem. Thank you so much again, Amanda, for coming across.
Thank you,
And
Martin.
we appreciate that, really appreciate you giving us your time to come here and speak to all our friends all across the world. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
The future of mankind has its roots in the past. Only through understanding our history can we build a better future. Welcome to the Bible Lands Museum, Jerusalem. You are about to embark on a unique tour of the ancient lands of the Bible, the lands where the dramatic biblical stories took place thousands of years ago. We will see the big picture and discover the profound relationship linking our distant past with our lives today. We'll explore this fascinating region known as the cradle of civilization, where thousands of years ago, the first villages and cities were built, new kingdoms and empires were established, writing was invented, trade and commerce developed, art, worship, and religion flourished. Awaiting us in the galleries are original ancient treasures, witnesses to our history. The museum is like a time capsule, leading us on a journey through the lands of the Bible. From this unique perspective, we will discover the powerful connection between the Bible, history, and the geographical region of the ancient Near East.
Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget you can contact us at the email info@israelfirst.org. Visit the website www.israelfirst.org, and remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.